Okay, we're going to go through the buttons, knobs, switches, etc., on the interior. I'll have this written up as well, but um, let's see. We'll go through with the key off, and then we'll go back through with the key on. On this panel here, the items that will work. Zoom in there. It's the fog light switch, the wipers, the air conditioning switch. That just arms the air conditioning. Obviously, with the engine off, the air conditioning's not going to run. Also, for the air conditioning to actually power up, which will include the sliders for the vent, the blower has to be in the on position. This does not. This isn't activated until the key is in the 1 position. But in any event, this is latched, so actually any of these are latched with the exception of this one. So if you feel it and it's in, that means it's on, in addition to the light. Okay. So this upper button is the fresh air, and when it's a momentary switch, but when it's on, with the air conditioning and whatnot going, when it's on, which means the damper is closed to fresh air. I guess that's a little counterintuitive, but in any event, the blue halo light will light up when the damper is closed. So 99% of the time you're going to have the fresh air open. That's why I have it set so it's not lit up. On the other side, you've got 3 buttons. The left button is the heated glass, which again is a indent, and it doesn't activate unless the key's on. The middle button, you don't have to push it. The middle button is the emergency brake, so it'll squeal when it's going on. It'll squeal the button, or the alarm will squeal, I should say. When you push it in, and it will alarm when it's releasing as well. The halo light does not come on, but you can feel if the brake is on, the button will be depressed and will stay depressed. On the far right, which you can push, is the emergency flashers, which is pretty obvious there. All right, so underneath the dash is a button and a rotary knob. The button is the manual override for the fan, which again is switched. Shouldn't have to fool with this. This motor is unbelievably cool running. So above that, or closer to you, is another rotary knob, which is associated with the air conditioner. It's essentially it's intended as a thermostat. It's essentially sets the duty cycle of the air compressor. So the colder you want it, the more that air compressor is going to be on. So that's fully rotated
full clockwise.
Full clockwise. Fully counterclockwise will actually turn the air compressor off. So it's there's a bit too much, unfortunately, with the way I have this air conditioning set up. But essentially, with that rotary knob, I would just set it and forget it. So that's it for the knobs and such with the engine off, or with the switch off, I should say. So if we go to the 1 position, the on position, you're going to see the 2 lights light up. And maybe you hear momentarily the pump will go on for a few seconds. The 2 lights, this is the
Oil pressure,
low oil pressure light, and this is the alternator light. So obviously with no pressure and the engine not running, they're both on. They both should be off. They're obviously in a prominent position such that If either of those light up, you know you've got a problem. Going back to these guys here, that's our stereo, which will now come on, and it is it's latched, so if you turn the key off, this will stay in the on position, but the stereo itself will be off. Now with it in the on position, now this is all, and now with the blower on, with the key on, I should say, with the key on, with the blower on, the air conditioning button on, then the fresh air button, which is a momentary switch, will come on or off. So fresh air is in the off position, recirculating air is the blue. And then
Sliders.
we got the sliders. This is floor, center vents, and defrost, and in between there is mix. So halfway between the center and defrost, obviously, is a mix of the two, and similarly between the floor and the center. And the other knob is the heater control. So that's cold, that's hot, as designated by the little colored dots there. What I have found is if you're going to run the heater, I generally run it full heat at first and then back it off. We haven't run it enough for me to really know if that's the way it goes or not, but just be advised of that. Also, you can run the heat while you're running the air conditioning, or you could say it vice versa. You could run the air conditioning while you've got the heat going. If you're going to do that in the winter time, you're going to do that to dry the air out some. But if you're running the air conditioner in the summertime and it's getting too dang cold, you might just go ahead and warm it up through the heater rather than the duty cycle button over there. But you're going to learn those things. You'll understand that more than we will because you'll have driven a lot more. Is there anything over here? Anything else here?
Well, we got our USB
Dual USBs
plug there. Stuff on the speedometer here. As I think I showed before, you got your indicator lights for the turn signals there. That top light is for high beams. So if you got your headlights on just the low beams, that will not light up. Only when you put the high beams on will that light up. So this big stalk over here is your headlights. That's high, low, somewhat counterintuitively, and then rotate this for
Not if you're an alpha.
off, parking, and then headlights.
Now this button here.
Yes. Well, we're indoors right now,
Yeah,
so
so
it's still, doesn't have a
acquiring.
GPS signal, but I believe this is the trip counter reset.
Actually, that would logically be the case, but I think there's also a series of other functions, which is mentioned in the one-page user guide or manual or whatever you want to call it for that gauge. So I don't know it off the top of my head, but you'll have that as well.
Window control.
Well, okay, yeah, window controls.
You've got, when this button is not depressed, this is controlling the driver window, and the passenger switch is controlling the passenger window. When this button is depressed, this switch is now controlling the passenger window, and the passenger does not have a control of their own.
Yeah, so you've got.
Hang on a second, just gotta focus this.
Not even sure what that.
There we go.
What I think this turns off the
Rear view.
rear view. So if you're in reverse, there's that.
Yep.
And oh, what's that say? if I read the manual, I would know a little bit more.
This is a read
I
the
think-
manual moment.
Yeah. I actually think that's the self-dimming feature.
That would make sense.
But yeah, so in reverse, whether the lights are on or not, the camera will come up and the rear light will come on, which also, the way we have it wired right now, with the way that we have it wired right now, anytime the transmission is in reverse, that rear light will come on. So if you park the car, you want to make sure that you don't have it in reverse. Otherwise, that light will stay on. In here, I won't pull it down, but let me see if I can get up in there. Not really, but there's a, oops, not with the door. Are we? We are? Yes, we are. Okay, sorry. I thought we hit the button the wrong way. Oh, you can kind of see it. Sorry. Over here is the microprocessor that controls the vents, and that's up there with Velcro. There's a fan. Let's see. Yeah. You'll never hear the fan because the blower's on, but just to be aware, there's a little fan that cools the computer in there. And obviously you can see some wires kind of floating around there. No, nothing to concern yourself with unless we have a problem, at which point, you know, we'll have to guide you through. But thus far, that hasn't been an issue. For what it's worth. There's the title. I have signed it. Everything else is for you. And then this is the controller for the stereo, which I have found is largely worthless. The volume control just replicates what you're doing on your smartphone. Now you do have the ability to fast forward and, you know, that kind of stuff. This equalizer thing I have found to be largely ineffective, and from what I'm reading online, that's the way it is. So, and this is pause and start, but essentially, with the exception of the ineffective EQ, the rest of the stuff you can handle on your smartphone anyway. So I think you're going to find that you really have no need to fool with that.
Other thing in here just to note, there is this calibration wire, which is for the fuel gauge. You should never have to touch this, but just in case we ever do,
it's there.
There it is.
Yeah. The rat's nest of wires for the computer, for the ECU and such, yes, thank you, is underneath, or I guess I should say above, this little Velcro cover. And again, hopefully there's no need to ever get underneath here, but it's there. And there's the ECU, and
Blue cable is the tuning cable.
oh, okay. Up here is a tuning cable that you would pull down if needed, hopefully never, to connect to the laptop if we had to diagnose something or whatnot, but shouldn't have to fool with that. Over here, this is obviously the passenger compartment, if I didn't say so, is a, let me see if I can get this off. There we go. Alright, this is one of technically 4 fuse box arrows. So there's 6 fuses, 6 fuses here, and 6 relays here that are all marked, but I'll have that all written down. And there's a secondary relay there. And then on this side, if you can just get a shot of that guy there. There are 6 fuses there. Only 3 are being used, so I've marked the other side as being
These are spares.
Yeah. So I believe bottom to top is the USBs, the bottom wire. The middle fuse is for the speedo, and the top one is the power for the park feature on the windshield wiper.
While we're down here, obviously hood release, but this here is your windshield sprayer. So give that a good kick, and hold it down to spray.
Okay.
Moving to the back.
Moving to the back.
And while we're in this area, maybe also worth looking at the courtesy lights here, which
I was gonna say what?
they do not have an off switch. There is only constant on or door switched. So we're keeping them door switched.
Okay, so if you would run your... There we go, good enough. Now, I'll give that back to you. Oh, so power off switch. That's pretty straightforward. And I will try to remember to put a second one in the glove box, so just on the off chance that you might misplace that one. You got that? All right. So what we got here is we looked at the fuse box on the passenger side, the fuse box on the driver's side under the dash. There's 2 more fuse buses here. There's 15 fuses, all are being used, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relays are being used here. And then over here is another fuse bus, of which I think only 2 or 3 are currently being used at the again, I'll have this all written out. I'm not going to go through these, but it'll all be written out. In addition, obviously, we've got the battery. This is the power amp for the stereo, which is married to a fan because this thing gets hot. Apparently that's just the way it works, but I wasn't real comfortable not having some kind of cooling there. This is the control box for the emergency brake, and this is for the door locks. And this wire with plug is for the battery charger. The battery charger is in the trunk with a regular outlet cable, and it's probably a good idea if the car is going to sit more than, I don't know, a few days or a week or something like that. Not a bad idea just to plug that in. This button here shows the health of the battery. I don't recall the last time we had charged this battery, but it's been a while and it's still running fully charged, so I'm pretty happy with what we're seeing. This is a voltmeter, amp meter that we just kind of installed at the last minute just to kind of double check what's going on here and what we're finding. Early on, we made some changes because we were noticing some current draws with everything turned off, so we made some changes, and this was just validating that we're not getting any current draw. And 13.2 amp is, or excuse me, volts is very healthy battery, and you know, just for giggles, if you're watching something, so let's just turn the key on, and yeah, you can see it's got about well, for whatever that was, 2 or 3 seconds, you saw the fuel pump come on, and so it was drawing some current. There's the blower. You can see that's pulling about 3/10 of an amp or something like that, and the volts drop a little bit. But am I even showing? Okay, sorry. But anyway, that's that. There's nothing significant about that other than the fact that it was as much just kind of a diagnostic tool for us, but it's there if you need it. And of course, on the driver's side is a storage area, which we lined in vinyl per your request. Let's go into the trunk. More beautiful camera work. And our subwoofer's there. I didn't get a chance to mess with it, but there are some adjustments on there, and I, to my ears, were bass heavy with the system that we have. So I think you might be inclined to adjust. Sorry for the noise. Might be inclined to adjust that subwoofer down, and hopefully that'll improve it. There is a fuse on this side specifically for the subwoofer, and beyond that, that's the battery charger, which again it's mounted in there, and you can see the cable, which you can pull out and plug in, which isn't a bad idea. But other than that, it's pretty well self-contained. There's nothing you really need to do there. Obviously the spare is under there. I don't need to go through that. And I think that concludes the tour